Okay, let's get into it. We're doing a deep dive today, really unpacking a fascinating Western Conference game. The Minnesota Timberwolves taking on the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, this was a good one to break down. Lots of implications.
Definitely. We've gone through the game footage, the numbers, everything to pull out what really matters, the key moments, the matchups, the storylines.
And the goal really for you listening is to understand what this game tells us, not just the score, but the tactics, the battles, and maybe where these teams are actually headed.
Exactly. We want you to see what this reveals about their playoff potential, their trajectory.
Because one game, especially now, can show you so much, right? It highlights those strengths, but maybe more importantly, it exposes the weaknesses teams are trying to hide.
Couldn't agree more. So let's start with the basics, the final score. Minnesota Timberwolves got the win over the Los Angeles Lakers. The final was Timberwolves X to Lakers X.
But that score doesn't tell the whole story, does it?
Not at all. The Wolves, they came out really strong in that first half. Ant, KAT, they were both cooking early.
Yeah, that offensive push from Minnesota right away, it kind of set the tone, put the Lakers on their heels a bit.
It did. And when both Edwards and Towns are clicking like that, it just puts immense pressure on the defense.
Creates so many problems. Who do you double? Where do you help from?
Meanwhile, the Lakers, they were, let's say, cold from three-point range early on, really struggled there.
Couldn't buy one for a while.
But they hung around, they stayed competitive, mostly through, AD getting touches in the post and LeBron doing his thing, playmaking.
Which is kind of the Lakers' fallback, right? When the shooting isn't there, they can still pound it inside to AD or let LeBron create something out of nothing. Shows their experience.
Totally. Then the second half rolls around and things started to shift.
Yeah, the Lakers made a real push.
Big time. Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, they got going, started hitting shots, creating offense. Suddenly, the momentum felt like it was swinging back towards LA.
And that's crucial for them. When Reeves and D'Lo are scoring threats, it just takes so much pressure off LeBron and AD. Makes them way harder to guard.
But credit to Minnesota. They didn't fold.
Nope. They weathered the storm.
They responded to that Lakers rally with some really key defensive stops, and their bench came up big with some timely scoring, too. Regained control.
That's a sign of maturity, I think.
Yeah.
Being able to take a punch from a team like the Lakers, especially with LeBron and AD, and then punch back. That's important heading towards the playoffs.
Absolutely. And all that led to, well, a pretty tense finish. Clutch time.
Yep, down the stretch.
And it really felt like Anthony Edwards took over. He hit some tough shots, made the big plays when they needed them most.
He really did. Looked like he wanted the ball, wanted to be the guy to close it out. That's star potential right there, taking and making those pressure shots.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's really dive into some of the key storylines, the matchups within the game. First one, the bigs. AD versus Gobert and KT.
Yeah, the battle in the paint. Always huge in a game like this.
It really dictated a lot. So who controlled the paint? Looking at the stats, the Wolves actually had a slight edge in points in the paint.
Interesting. And rebounding.
Gobert and Towns together, they out-rebounded AD. Blocks were pretty close, fairly even.
Okay, but what about the KT factor? His shooting, pulling AD away from the rim. How much did that impact things, you think?
That's the key tactical point, isn't it? Because Davis has to respect KT out there on the perimeter. He can't just camp in the paint.
Exactly. And that can open up driving lanes, makes it harder for AD to be that ultimate rim deterrent he usually is. It changes the geometry of the defense.
Good way to put it. All right, next storyline. Anthony Edwards versus the Lakers' perimeter defenders. They threw different guys at him. Vanderbilt, Reddish, Christie.
A rotating cast, trying to find something that worked.
So how effective were they really in containing Ant?
I mean, it's tough, right? He's just so explosive, even with the good defenders on him. His mix of athleticism and skill, he's going to get his points.
We definitely saw those powerful drives he got to the rim. But I also noticed maybe some lapses on the closeouts. He got some clean looks from three.
Yeah, and you can't afford that against him. Those little moments, slow closeouts, not getting a hand up properly. He makes you pay. He can rise up over contests, too.
True. Okay, let's flip it. LeBron's playmaking versus the Wolves' D. Minnesota used McDaniels a lot, NEW2. Were they able to limit his impact as a passer as the engine of that offense?
That's always the goal against LeBron,
Yep.
right? Try to make him a scorer, limit the easy assists, cut off those passing lanes. McDaniels and NEW have the length and tenacity to try.
Looking at the box score, LeBron had a decent number of assists, but the turnovers were up slightly.
Okay, so maybe that pressure did have an effect.
It felt like it. That length, the activity on the perimeter for Minnesota maybe forced him into some tougher passes, some situations he wouldn't normally choose.
Could be. Those active hands from McDaniels and Alexander Walker can definitely disrupt things, lead to deflections or rushed decisions.
For sure. Last key storyline here, the bench impact. And this one feels pretty significant. Naz Reid versus the Lakers reserves.
Oh, yeah. Big difference in this game. Bench production. It's often the hidden factor, isn't it?
Absolutely. And Naz Reid, wow, he was huge in the fourth quarter. Dropped 15 points off the bench.
15 in the fourth. That's massive from a reserve in a close game. Just a huge spark.
Invaluable. And then you look at the Lakers bench. They had some contributions, sure, but nothing like that consistent offensive firepower Reid provided.
Right. That kind of disparity, especially late in the game, can totally swing the outcome. When one bench is scoring like that and the other isn't, it creates a real gap.
Definitely felt that way. Okay, let's zoom out a bit, tackle some of the hot takes, the bigger picture stuff floating around these teams. First, Anthony Edwards, top 10 player.
The debate.
Yeah. Based on this game, his season, what are the arguments for and maybe against putting him in that elite group right now?
Well, the for argument is pretty strong, right?
Yeah.
Explosive scoring, incredible athlete, impact both ends. And like we saw tonight, he's taken over in crunch time now, showing that leadership potential.
Okay. And the against?
The against might be, well, maybe he needs a little more consistency over a full season. Maybe refining the decision-making just a touch more. It's nitpicking, maybe, but that top 10 is rarefied air. He's definitely knocking on the door, though.
Fair points. All right, next one. The Lakers role players. Are they good enough, consistent enough for a real title run? This game kind of highlighted some ups and downs.
Yeah, this game was almost a perfect example of the Laker role player experience, wasn't it? Flashes of brilliance like that second half run, but then periods where you need more.
Exactly. That consistency night in, night out, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's the big question mark, isn't it? Can they reliably deliver?
It seems to be. Championship teams usually have guys you can count on for a certain level of production pretty much every night. It feels like LA is still searching for that reliability outside their big two.
Okay, last hot take. Rudy Gobert. DPOY, frontrunner, or Arcado fire, sometimes exposed in these big matchups. What did this game tell us about that narrative?
Look, his impact near the rim, rebounding, shot blocking. Stats back it up. He anchors their defense. Yeah. But the knock on him, the narrative, is about guarding on the perimeter or what happens late in games when teams try to pull him out, maybe run pick and pop.
Right, the versatility question.
Exactly. And tonight, you saw AD try to challenge him both inside and with his jumper. So Gobert had his moments defensively, for sure. But the Lakers definitely tried to test those perceived limitations. Yeah. It fuels the debate, doesn't end it.
It really does. All right, let's think playoffs now. How does this specific result shake things up in the West standings for Minnesota and LA?
Well, for the Wolves, a win like this against a team like the Lakers, it just helps solidify their spot near the top. Good for seeding, good for confidence, builds momentum.
And for the Lakers?
For LA, losing a head-to-head against a potential playoff opponent, well, it hurts. Makes that path potentially tougher, maybe pushes them closer to that play-in zone. Every game counts so much right now in the West.
So does this win kind of cement the Timberwolves as like legitimate title contenders? Or do you still see maybe some inconsistency there?
It's a strong statement win, for sure. But legit contender status. That comes from doing it consistently, especially against the other top teams, and then proving it in the playoffs. They're showing they can be, but they need to sustain it.
Makes sense. And the Lakers, does this loss mean they're, pretty much locked into the play-in, or is there still a path to climb into that top six?
The Lakers' roller coaster season continues. They've shown they can beat anyone, but also lose games maybe they shouldn't. This loss doesn't seal their fate, but it makes that climb to the top six harder. They need a strong finish, minimal slip-ups.
Okay, hypothetical time. Let's say these two teams match up in a 7-game playoff series. Based on what we saw tonight, who do you lean towards? What are the key factors?
Ooh, tough one. Based just on tonight, maybe you give a slight edge to Minnesota. Ant's closing ability, their overall depth looked a bit better in this one. But it's the playoffs. It's LeBron James. It's Anthony Davis. Over 7 games, experience matters, adjustments matter. The Lakers have that championship DNA. It would be a fascinating, probably long series. Really could go either way, depending on who steps up.
Yeah, I could see that. Okay, let's wrap this up. Let's try and distill everything. What are the main takeaways from this deep dive? Maybe one or two key insights about each team that this game really highlighted for you.
For Minnesota, I think it underscored their potential when Ant and KT are firing, and crucially, their growing resilience. They didn't crumble when the Lakers pushed back. The key for them is just doing it consistently against elite teams.
Right. And for the
For
Lakers?
the Lakers, it just reinforced how much they rely on LeBron and AD, and how critical it is for those role players, the supporting cast, to step up reliably. They need more consistent production from guys not named LeBron or Anthony if they want to make a deep run.
Yeah, well said. The Wolves showed their firepower and grit. Lakers showed their star power, but also that need for consistent support. So, as we leave you to think about this, what's the big question? The lingering uncertainty this game leaves us with about either team's championship aspirations.
Okay. For the Timberwolves, maybe the biggest question is, can this young core, led by Ant, handle the intense, sustained pressure of multiple playoff rounds against veteran teams who know how to exploit weaknesses? Can they maintain this level when the lights are brightest for weeks on end?
That's a good one. And for the Lakers?
For the Lakers, it's still that same question, really. Are the role players good enough, consistently good enough, to support LeBron and AD through 4 rounds of potentially brutal Western Conference playoff battles? Can they be relied upon when everything is on the line?